As someone who has taken hundreds of people for their first flight in a small airplane, I've had to answer more questions about safety than I care to recall. But what I really enjoy hearing is what others think about aviation safety. You'll hear many pilots say the most dangerous part of any flight is the drive to the airport. While this might be true of commercial flights, how do smaller private aircraft fare? First, let's define general aviation as the portion of all civil aviation that does not include scheduled or unscheduled air carriers or commercial space operations. This leaves us with the vast majority of single-engine piston and twin-piston engine aircraft, with very few large turboprop and jet aircraft. Most people refer to these simply as small private planes. Next, how do we measure safety as humans? Simply getting out of bed in the morning can be dangerous if you have a particularly temperamental toaster. I think that danger in infrastructure comes down to how much total energy you're exposing yourself to. This comes in many forms. You could be traveling very fast on a train, or sitting atop a mountain waiting for a cable car. You could also be a few inches away from a high-voltage subway rail, or just waiting in traffic with a gas tank full of stored energy. Aviation is inherently dangerous as it combines a whole bunch of these, traveling very fast, very high, with a lot of fuel. In 2015, there were 1.0 fatal accidents per 100,000 flight hours in general aviation aircraft. In the same year, there were 1.2 fatalities in cars every 100 million miles driven. Unfortunately, these are apples and oranges. We can now either convert to miles or hours. For hours, we can assume an average automobile speed of 50 miles an hour, since a lot of the distance covered would be on the highway. And we come up with one fatal accident every 1.6 million hours. This would seem to indicate that flying is 16 times more dangerous than driving, but this is the worst of the two comparisons, since airplanes cover distance much more quickly than cars. Across the range of aircraft we are considering and their proportions, an average speed of 185 miles an hour seems reasonable. At 185 miles an hour, those same 100,000 flight hours translate into 18.5 million miles covered. Compared to 83 million miles per fatal accident in cars, this makes flying to your destination 4.5 times more dangerous than driving. But road miles are not equivalent to sky miles, as any pilot will tell you as they watch the roads swerve underneath them, all the while flying straight as an arrow to their destination. This part really depends on where you live, and might actually work out in favor of flying. But for a typical suburban drive here in New England, let's use this ratio of 1.5. That means that for every mile you fly, someone would have to drive 1.5 miles to keep up with you on the ground. Accounting for this leaves us with flying to your destination being 3 times more dangerous than driving. If this seems difficult to stomach, consider your daily commute. My daily commute is only 5 miles, while the average American's is 15. This means that I can afford to fly almost 200 miles per month to meet the average American's danger quota, which is roughly a short flight every 2 weeks. If you need any more convincing, I'll put it another way for you. Would you stay home while your friends go out to a restaurant twice a week simply because you are afraid of getting into an accident? Hopefully that can put some perspective on aviation for you guys, even though there are nearly unlimited numbers of factors that go into aviation safety. The biggest part of staying safe in the air to me is knowing how good of a pilot you're flying with. I think the pilots you see on YouTube, like myself, give us a deceptively good reputation. There are plenty of pilots out there that you couldn't pay me to get in the same airplane with. Assuming you trust your pilot to take enough fuel to get to your destination and know what to do if you encounter bad weather, then you might as well discount over half of all fatal aviation accidents. In fact, 70% of all accidents are caused by pilot error. Now, nobody is perfect, but if you combine your choice to fly with only exceptional pilots in very well-maintained aircraft, then you can account for more than 70% of all accidents, finally making flying safer per mile than driving. To everyone considering flying with a friend or getting your own pilot's license, I hope I have presented this data in a way that makes you less afraid of flying, as I think the media tends to capitalize on our fears of flying. And to my fellow pilots, the dangers and responsibilities of flying should never be minimized. Only we, the licensed pilots, are responsible for making aviation as safe or is dangerous as you want to consider it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you learned something. As always, we'll catch you next time on the Friendly Skies channel.